So many times I wake up and at least one point in the day, thank God that I'm not single because I have no idea how people find significant others in the year of our Lord 2024. We're coming upon 2025 pretty quick. And I don't see things getting much better. From an outsider's perspective, from someone that's been in a serious committed relationship since 2012, which is pre-dating app world, right? From someone that grew up in a generation where it was like cool for your parents to be like, 9 a.m. on a Saturday, wake you up, what are you doing home? Get on your bike, get the hell out of here, come back before it gets dark. And you're just gone. You're just cruising around the city on your own, at like 12, 13 years old. There's so many things from an outsider perspective looking at the modern world that like, dude, oh my God. It doesn't even seem like you really have a chance. And I think what I would call it is trying to date in the age of cringe. Cringe is a word to me that is like kind of, when I hear someone use it, I think to myself, now there's an NPC. Because everything is cringe now. Being romantic is cringe. Being deep is cringe. Being vulnerable is cringe. You know what's not cringe? Is being an over-the-top jackass, jumping over cars on YouTube, pranking people, and just, for all intents and purposes, being someone who's so hungry for attention that they can't help but do just the dumbest shit. Being smart is cringe. Everything's cringe now. Emotion is cringe. We as a civilization have now taken all the things that are the complexities of the human condition and labeled them as unwanted. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? We're living in an epidemic of loneliness. And people could get on the horn and talk about like, oh, it's cell phones and this, that, and other thing, and social media and comparison syndrome. And you're right, it's all of those things. But at the end of the day, it's like, dude, and I'm not just talking about teenagers. I'm talking about like full-grown adults in their 30s, have no clue how to hold a conversation with a stranger. It's obscene. They don't make eye contact. They don't know how to carry a conversation. They don't know how to pivot from one topic to the other. They don't have a knowledge base to be adaptable in modern society, to be able to talk about not just the weather and pleasantries and surface material, but, maybe a little deeper, maybe have some thoughts on comparative religion or political systems or history or the sciences. You might have an interest in one or two of those things, but to be a well-rounded human being, you need to have opinions. And a lot of the times when I talk to people, their opinion on everything is like, oh man, I don't know, bro. I don't know. It's like, well, then you're a fucking idiot. Like, how do we live in an age of information where literally everything is at your fingertips, but zero wisdom? Zero wisdom. It's not. This is a crazy thought, and I think about this, and it's funny, and it's just a funny little anecdote. But like when our parents were our age, they would sit around and they would bullshit, and they would just say things that they don't even really know to be true, and people would go, "That's interesting," with really no means of like fact checking what the hell they're talking about. They were just talking shit to carry on a conversation, mentioning interesting things. And it wasn't about being right. It wasn't about being smart. It was about keeping the conversation going. Now, let me tell you something. Look at me. Look at my face. I am not a handsome man. I have never thought of myself as such. I don't consider myself to be smart or creative or talented. I'm just overtly opinionated, as you can tell, right? But my wife is an absolute smoke show. She is so beautiful, right? And I think about like, man, how did I get so lucky? You know, because I think it's a lot of luck. And I realize, because as I've said before, it's not like I had any money. It's not like I had a career going. I had no prospects, right? When we met. And I think the kids nowadays call it Riz, which is short for charisma, right? But charisma today is, it's very weird to me. Everyone seems really dead set on becoming their best selves at the cost of accepting that you're flawed, accepting someone else's flaws, and then growing together, which is how you create a really solid foundational relationship. There's a certain thing that happens when you're with someone for a long time, and that trust is built, and that vulnerability is there, and you're able to kind of, you're going to have days when you suck and you're not your best self. But there's a checks and balances thing that happens in a relationship where, if your ego is getting too out of control, they'll pull you down a little bit. If your emotional level's a little too flatlined, they'll pull you up a little bit. And you do that for each other. And you're constantly trying to improve each other to be your best selves while accepting that sometimes that's not the case. And the one thing that I see, I have cousins and friends and people who are younger than me, right? And the one thing that I see is that they're just so focused on them. They're just me monsters that are like, me, my world, my dreams, my passions, my self-improvement, me. And it's like, and I really believe this, we are all one half of a whole, okay? I'm not saying that you have to hook, line, and sinker swallow the institution of marriage and kids. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we as human beings are only able to do so much by ourselves. And I think the people that make it to the finish line and they don't have a significant other and they haven't invested that time in letting themselves grow with someone else, I think they probably regret it. I know I would. I think that there's a huge benefit to pulling someone into your life with all their peccadillos and flaws, letting them see who you are, and then kind of being like, oh, is that okay? And then being like, yes, actually, I like that about you. And you're like, oh, that thing that I do or don't do that makes me feel shitty, someone else accepts. And there's this really wholesome, holistic relationship that you build. I don't have any clue how kids are going to do it today. Marriage seems out the door. People are having less kids. People are having less sex, which is wild. And I think of all the really, really superficial things that like a dating app. Swipe left, swipe right. I've never had a dating app on my phone. I've never interacted with it. But to me, it seems like literally the gamification of the soul. We have like a core loneliness. Human being, it's not just like me subjectively talking about something, right? It's an objective fact. There's so many studies. If you separate someone from everybody else, they lose their minds. Even if that person is antisocial or introverted or didn't really interact with people before that. Like communion and communication and relationships, community, these things are like the core foundation of how we operate as human beings, right? And so it's like, man, I don't know about you, but I can count all the people on one hand that truly know me as a human being, which is a huge part of like why I wanted to make these videos, right? Is because I'm always talking to people about what I think about things, and I don't like the idea of not being understood or being misunderstood, or just like feeling like I have a perspective or something to say about something, and then like just not talking to anybody about it. That seems not great. Porn. what is happening, dude? People are like addicted to it. When I was a kid, right? When I was a kid, this is what porn was. When your parents were gone, you knew where your dad's stash was. You'd go pick out a magazine. You'd go somewhere else. You'd do the deed, and then you had to slip that magazine right back where it was in the stack. Second from the bottom, get the edges lined up. Okay, it's just like that. Boom, that. That was like pornography, right? And it was just like naked ladies in a magazine. And it's like now it's like sister fantasies and mom fantasies and R-word fantasies and like all of this really sick and depraved thing. And, you know, there's an interview with Ted Bundy, who had like a perfectly fine childhood, right? When you think of serial killers, you think of like, oh, you know, their mom's poking them with a hot iron, you know, and they're just like, Ted Bundy said, my childhood was great. My parents were great. He said the thing that warped his mind was like porn, and that he just couldn't get enough of it. And I realize this is a slight contradiction because he was existing in the age where porn was like a little less hardcore or whatever it is today. But it stands to reason that porn corrupts your brain. It corrupts your perspective of relationships. It lowers your self-esteem. It causes shame. Shame is the mind killer, dude. Like, this is why I'm saying I don't even understand how people have a fucking chance in the world today. You literally have to compare yourself to everybody online all the time, always. You are ruining your brain with what is pretty dark shit online as far as like pornography, totally warping your perspective. And then anything that is like positive, being a human being, that is like a positive aspect, we're labeling as cringe. It's not cringe to be serious. It's cringe to be serious. It's cringe to be thought through. It's cringe. You know what's not cringe is just being funny, comedy. It's like, dude, I don't get it. I actually don't get it. I thank God that I'm not these people, dude. I feel so bad. I feel so bad for people. And there's a whole like $1 billion industry ready to tell you what you need to do. You need to focus on you. You need to go to the gym. You need to diet. You need to ask your boss for a raise. You need to switch careers. You need to focus on you. You need to love yourself before someone else is going to love you. You need to be an entire whole human being before even thinking about getting into a relationship. And I reject that premise entirely. Our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-great-grandparents, they were getting married and having kids like before 25. They were committing their whole life to a human being while still pretty much being kids themselves. And this was like the norm in civilization. But with the aid of, pharmaceuticals to be able to have kids later, and with careers, people want to wait, and blah, 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 blah. This is Idiocracy. This is literally that movie, right? This is like that movie where it's like, the people that are like dumb, they're like, I'm going to have 5 kids. And then the people who are smart be like, we're just going to wait. And then they never have kids, right? And that's what most people are doing now. They're saying, well, I'm going to wait. And then you're going to wake up and you're 45 and you can't have kids. And it's like, dude, I don't know, man. I don't know how we've become such a weird society. It doesn't feel like a good thing. It doesn't feel like a good direction. It feels depressing and lonely and sad. And let me tell you where this is all headed. Let me ask you an honest question. Have you seen the movie Her? Where Scarlett Johansson is a computer? I think I can speak for a lot of dudes when I say the idea of dating Scarlett Johansson in a computer doesn't sound so bad. Doesn't sound so bad, right? That's where we're headed, because nobody knows how to hold a conversation. People aren't going outside. You can't go to a park or a bar or a gym and try to even talk to anybody anymore. Everybody has headphones in. Everybody's in their own fucking world. So what are you going to do? I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to go home. You're going to click on your little AI avatar, and it's going to be like Blade Runner 2049. You got this illusion walking around an apartment, and that's it. Everybody has such high standards. Congratulations. You're going to get your standards fulfilled by some illusion, some customizable illusion tailored to your needs that can take care of you, like the proverbial mother. That's dark, bro. That's a dark place. That's a dark world. I don't know, man. I don't know if any of that seems right or good. The other thing I've noticed, and I'm not gonna mention anybody specifically. All right. But the idea of like a man-child, like a stunted, like an emotionally, mentally stunted human being, I think is rampant. I have met some people, wildly successful, who act like they're 17, just irresponsible, immature, everything's cringe. Their sense of humor is what you would expect from a 17-year-old, right? Super edgy. It's like, dude, you're not 17. You're like 27. What are you doing? Right? And I don't want to get on the mic and be like, people need to read books. People need to get wise. Because people take that way too far. People take that way too far these days, where they're like, well, I'm just going to look into Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism and learn, there's like a whole movement called MGTOW, which is an acronym for men going their own way, and they're just going to focus on themselves and blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you something, dude. If you're a guy, if you're a man, and you're not actively working to like provide, you have something in you that feels incomplete. That's just a fact. And a lot of people are going to be like, that's not true. It is fucking true. You're literally the guy in the cave in Plato's allegory looking at the shadows on the wall. You have no fucking clue what's outside the cave. The second that you start actually working and struggling and risking shit to provide for someone that you love that is looking at you to do so, you actually have like this sense of completion inside of you, and it feels good, and you have self-esteem, and you hold your head a little higher, and you're able to have conversations with people and make eye contact. It's maybe it's cowardice. Maybe that's, maybe the epidemic of loneliness is systemic from the epicenter of cowardice. People just don't have courage anymore. And maybe the idea of courage has been totally fucked up. The idea of courage is being super buff and super strong and having a great beard with a backwards hat and being able to be like, yeah, bro, what, that's, yeah. Like, that's courage? Courage, I hate to tell you this because I know it's cringe. Courage is the ability to be romantic and deep and vulnerable with a human being that has flaws, and accepting those flaws and knowing your own flaws and being able to share in that and be two fucked up human beings coming together to live a life. That's it. That's courage. That actually takes courage. So I don't know. I just got off the phone yesterday with someone I know, and they were talking to me about like how it's impossible, how it's literally impossible to even try to find someone to want to settle down. People are living with their parents for like ever, right? And there's a lot of things. I get the nuances, and I was talking to them about this. I was saying, yeah, Job opportunities are difficult. Rents and home prices are super high. Most people my age are not buying houses, right? They're not buying a house. And why fucking would they? They're one person. They're one person. That's one FICO score. That's one income. There's a certain, when all the lovey-doveyness is gone and it's not all Netflix and chill, the fact of the matter is being in a relationship is a business arrangement. You get so much more done in life. You can accomplish your goals so much faster when you have a partner and you're encouraging each other and there's different income sources. And, for me, for a long time, my wife, we had a dual income. My wife full on supported my ass while I was trying to become a YouTube video editor. And then I made it. I did it. I was making a bunch of money, and I was like, quit your job. You're done. You're not working anymore, right? And we were able to have a kid. And that's a really simplified version of that story. But the second that I was able to do that, God, it felt so good. It felt so good, right? The problem is that you take that, society takes that now and is like, bro, you're not making 7 figures, dude, by 22. You're a fucking loser, dude. What happened? When did our perspective of what it means to be a human being, to care about each other, to be afraid inside to go talk to that girl at the bar, but to still do it? I don't know. I don't know. I feel really, really, really bad for people trying to find love in the age of cringe. And here's the thing. Why would you? Why would you want to settle down and be in a committed relationship in the age of cringe? Everybody has a foot out the door in the beginning of a relationship. That's a true fact. Right? That's everybody. When you first get into a relationship and you're testing the waters and you're looking for red flags, everybody has a foot out the door, right? But you slowly start to accept the things. Even when the red flags pop up, you slowly start to accept each other and you say, okay, this is it. I'm making the commitment, right? And then there's like a classic blueprint of, you go talk to someone. You each live in your own respective places for a while. It's going good. You make the decision of moving in with each other. That goes good for a while. You pop the question. You get married. You buy a house. You upgrade. You have kids, right? That's the normal blueprint. And I'm not saying that that's the way it should be done, right? But now it seems like the blueprint is you each live at home with your parents or in apartments with roommates, a bunch of roommates, and you both use dating apps to try to get to each other, and you're letting these little tiny swiping dating interactions become the whole of the dating experience, to where now when you go on a date with someone, they're also dating 10 other people. You're one of 5 dates they got going on that day. It's speed dating. That doesn't really allow for the necessary environment to build a relationship. One of the things I said to my friend yesterday on the phone was this. I said, if you feel like you want love in your life, you have to go find it. You have to get out of your phone, out of the apps, off your ass, into the world, and you have to find it. And here's what I actually believe. I believe that so few people are talking to each other in public and saying hi and have the skills to be able to hold a conversation and then, say something like, hey, you seem really cool. Can I get your number? Like, would you like to go on a date sometime? I know a restaurant, blah, 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 blah. So few people are doing that if you do it, you might blow someone's socks off, dude. You might be able to really, really get someone that, on an app might just go next, blah. Because it's, like I said, look at me, me and my wife always joke, if we were on the show Love is Blind talking to each other through a wall, would she still date me? I don't know. I would like to believe that we're soulmates and we would have wound up with each other no matter what. But I don't know, right? I know that if I was on an app and it was a picture of me with my double chin being like, she would probably freaking swipe, dude, right? There's a lot more going on than this face, right? Because it had to be that way. Otherwise, I would have never stood a chance. But I don't know. I feel really bad for my friend. I feel really bad for people out there today. People just don't give each other the time of day in public, and that's sad because face to face is where the interactions are. You ever tried like dating someone or like warming up to someone or learning about someone through text messages and like, it's like GIFs and emojis, and it's like, dude, you can't take the measure of a human being. You can't take the caliber of a person through that. It's hard to take a temp, right? Whereas like when you're face to face, you get the vibe, you get the feeling of who a person is, right? And it's like, I don't know. I thank God that I'm not single, that I don't have to use a dating app, that I don't have to deal with this shit, because to me, it seems really, really sad and depressing and difficult. Yeah. Let's end on a positive note. Let's end on a positive note here. I think, and I really, really, really believe this in my heart, I think that despite technology and despite the apps and despite the institution of marriage eroding and despite everybody seeing every positive human complexity as cringe, despite all of those things, I think what can and should happen is there's this movement that is happening, right? Called the Luddites. The Luddite movement, which is a historical reference, called Luds, right? It's these people nowadays called Luds, and they're just groups of friends refusing to take their phones out, going to a park, hanging out and talking. Which, I know, sounds cringe. But hear me out. That's called human experience, right? And I think that's a good thing. I think that no matter how shitty things get, there'll always be people that like will see through the facade of technology and society and the bullshit and go like, return to nature, return to human experience, the truth of human experience. So anyway, I know that sounds insane too, to like leave the house without your phone. Just even the thought of it is like, holy shit, what if something happens? I won't be able to call anybody. I won't be able to find my way. People give me directions. They're like, just take a left at the, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. Just give me the address. I'll put it into my phone, right? Like the dependency on technology is insane. But maybe that's what we do. Maybe like, you leave the house. No, because then how are you going to get someone's number if you don't got your phone? You pull out a pen and piece of paper. Let me write your number down. Now we're really going back to the 80s. Yeah, man. I guess I just see like the shift in it's just basic math. Okay? Everyone's having a mental health crisis. Everybody's lonely. While categorically prioritizing themselves and their own experiences while calling everything cringe and being cynical of the world around them. All of those variables equal depression, sadness, unfulfillment. Maybe, who's to say? Maybe the old blueprint was right. Maybe the idea of meeting someone face to face, moving in with each other, popping the question, getting married under the old oak tree, and having a couple kids. Maybe that's where it was at. I think if you argue against that, you're arguing against like 100,000 years of how we all got here. Maybe we should go back. I don't know. Maybe I'm a hopeless romantic, which is cringe. All right.